Saw 10 marks the latest film in the ongoing horror franchise, so today, let's rank all films from worst to best. Hey everybody, my name's Justin here. I try to watch everything that hits theaters and on streaming services. If you guys are like me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and click that bell notification for more up and coming content. Leave your list down below. How would you rank all 10 Saw films, including the newest film, Saw X? Also be including Spiral in here as well. So leave your list down below. Coming in last place is Saw 5. I didn't find Agent Hoffman to be anywhere as menacing as John Kramer and even Amanda. So the back and forth for Strom and Hoffman is quite dull within this film, and it's the huge focus of the movie. There are some pretty gory traps in here, but Agent Strom starts to realize that Hoffman may be behind everything, and there are some pretty good twists at the end of the film, but this easily is the most mediocre film. It doesn't feel as suspenseful as other entries in the Saw franchise. I just wasn't really captivated by that back and forth between Strom and Hoffman being a pretty bland character overall, so it made it really hard to really enjoy this movie. Coming in ninth place is Jigsaw. I was quite disappointed with this movie as it feels pretty clean compared to how dirty some of the other Saw films do feel, and how this movie was so convoluted for really no reason. The time gaps between the film and what we got in the beginning with the groups of characters being tortured, and then our other storyline that's going on 10 years later, it really made no sense. And then you just added another character that John Kramer was working with, and it was pretty shocking, but I really didn't feel that impact compared to Agent Hoffman being in the film and Amanda, and then the back and forth between all the other characters. I was pretty let down with this movie. The traps in here weren't as gory as other films. It wasn't as entertaining. It felt just pretty clean, and the editing and directing felt really different from the other Saw films. So I was quite disappointed with this movie in terms of the characters and the reveals. It wasn't as impactful as other movies. Coming in eighth place is Saw 3D. This is a gimmick. The amount of 3D usage in here is really bad. I did not see it in theaters. I did not see it in 3D. So you could easily tell when it wants to have that 3D moment, and they really try to go with it. And there's an over reliance on that at times. Like, that's what the shot really wants to be. And it just does not work in here. And then I think the story does work. Someone that claims they've been part of Jigsaw's trap, but they have not been, and they capitalize on that. That's a pretty interesting story that doesn't go in depth as much as it should. It's a pretty decent story that's just not really expanded on it. I liked seeing some of the characters return in this film, and a pretty shocking ending to the movie. Character from the first film, but overall, just some of the traps in here just felt overall a little too silly, and the style and the color, the directing, the editing feels really poor, like really low budget compared to some of the other films. And these films that haven't had the biggest budgets ever, but you can really feel that in Saw 3D. So it's to the point where you feel like it's losing its steam. It's not as good as those other films. It's fun at times, and there's some pretty solid traps in here, but just the way it looks and the potential it had to deliver on a good story just really felt unfocused in here. Coming at number 7 is Spiral. There's a few things in Spiral that really irritate me. One, the voice in here. Jigsaw's voice was really sinister, and the voice in here as this character is describing the traps and how they can get out, I did not feel like that was menacing at all. I didn't feel like any sense of urgency. I laughed the first time I heard it. And I wish there was just more traps. There's a few like traps in here. They're not as memorable as other traps. When I went back to watch Spiral, and I've seen it twice now. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, it's pretty good. The second time I watched it, I tried so hard before I watched it to remember what these traps were. And there's just a few of them. Like, there's not as many as other movies. Some of them are pretty cool, but they're nowhere near as memorable as other Saw films. Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson are pretty good. I like that back and forth relationship that they had, father and son. Performance from Chris Rock is a little bit over the top at times, but adds some comedy to the movie. This movie just felt very different from the other Saw movies. The characters aren't as likable. The story isn't as groundbreaking. The reveal for our person who is acting like Jigsaw, it felt very personal to him, so there's a nice little touch to that. Overall, Spiral was disappointing despite a really good cast in here and a return and having like a spin-off to the franchise. It's just a film that I found was okay. Coming in sixth place is Saw 4. Saw 4 has the most disturbing opening. I thought the whole scene of them opening up John Kramer's body, going through his head and cutting him open, that to me is like worse than any of the traps within the movie. That's just, that one scene is the worst for me in the franchise. I thought Saw 4 did a nice job of building off of Saw 3 now that John Kramer is dead, but you still feel like he has a play in all of this, and bringing back Donnie Wahlberg in the movie as well. And then the big reveal of Hoffman at the end I thought was pretty interesting, since it wasn't a character like I particularly knew a lot of in the fourth film. I was curious to see where they would go later on. And I like SWAT Commander Rig as a character and the urgency with it, given a certain amount of time to go through these deranged traps. I did appreciate that we were given more of Jigsaw's backstory throughout this film. They implemented it in the right spots as Rig was going through different locations with these different traps, and we were given 90 minutes to save everybody. The backstory felt very important to John Kramer, and still felt like he was an important character within this movie. So there's that nice balance of our current storyline going on after John Kramer is dead, and got Reagan here, and Perez, and Strom, and Hoffman, and all of them. But then also peeling back John Kramer a little bit gives you a new insight to this character. Coming at number 5 is Saw 6. Saw 6 gives us a lot of backstory for Jigsaw. He is targeting insurance executives, so the way that they bring John Kramer back in here and have a lot of backstory for him really helps Saw 10. There's that new layer of emotion when it comes to John Kramer, as 4 and 5, especially 5, start to feel very repetitive. So you got like this fresh new take on the Saw franchise. Hoffman was a little bit better this time around in the 6th film. He's full on like the villain now after 4, the reveal, back and forth between 5 with Strom, and now like he's the full villain in here, and people are trying to find him. And I still do prefer Amanda and John Kramer, but in the 6th film he kind of came into motion, and I liked him more that time around. Coming at number 4 is Saw 10. The latest film in the Saw franchise is really good. We have John Kramer fully revealed in this movie. He's talking to his victims. They know who he is. He knows who they are. There's no secrets within this movie. The traps are pretty brutal. You got the vacuum with the eyes and a girl cutting off her legs. There are some really disturbing scenes within this film. But the way that they paint John Kramer in here, they try to make him a good guy, and they try to make him someone that you like. And they do that pretty well within this film. And they try to justify all of these traps. These are people that have conned him out of $250,000, and he still has cancer, and he wants to get revenge on them. And with no secrets, there's that really deep personal story for John Kramer, a lot of development for him, a lot of development for Amanda as well, as she's still recovering from her drug addiction. She's still unsure of taking over John's role after he passes away, and how she's trying to help out Gabriella within the film, because she's in that similar position that she is, adds to a whole new side of Amanda that we didn't get in the previous films. Coming in number 3 is Saw 2. I remember when Saw 2 was released, and I really liked the first one when I was in 7th grade, so I saw Saw 2 in 8th grade. And I really like when there's a group of people within the Saw movies as they start to fight against each other, and you have that like urgency, who's going to come out on top. There's some really big twists at the end that Amanda was involved with it all, returning back to the bathroom. I thought was really cool, but this film just felt really dirty. The room that they were in and how disgusting it felt, you just felt that tone within the movie. And throwing Amanda into the pit of needles, there are some really hard scenes to watch in here, but the film does a nice job of giving us these reveals, these shocking moments throughout a lot of the film. The young boy that's in the safe, and John and Amanda within the film, and going back to the bathroom. There's a lot of things that like really did shock me, and I thought that it has a really good pace to it. A group of people, and you having people being picked off one by one, and the people going crazy at the end of the film. There's just that nice balance of a quick pace to it, but also a nice slower approach to kind of understanding John a little more as he's being held and being questioned, and you get to kind of see how he works after being dead, laying down in the first film, and now we get to see him being fully realized and understanding who he is. Saw 2 remains one of my personal favorites. I really like how it just moves, and the characters in here and how they are against each other, and the big twist at the end. Coming in second place is Saw 3. Saw 3 benefits from having that strong connection between Amanda and John, and so Amanda really has to take over, and she is showing her potential to John, and John is secretly testing her, which I thought was really big within the film. But you see that relationship, that it's highs and lows throughout, and how she is struggling to kind of take on this position. She's dealing with her own anger, she's dealing with her drug addiction, and John is trying to test her to see if she's worthy of all of this. On top of that, it has some of the most brutal kills in the franchise. The one with the lady being hung and the water spraying on her always gets to me. The pigs in there with the man laying down. There's a lot of just really disturbing scenes, but I like that you have 2 separate stories. This guy going through and trying to save people after his son was killed in a car accident, and then you have Amanda and John and this doctor that's trying to help him. Everybody's just kind of got the nice little story going on. There's a lot of intensity going around. There's that urgency. Is Amanda going to just kind of lose it all? Is John going to die? What's going to happen? With a lot of twists at the end, and everything's just really connected. I love when the score just really overpowers the end, and then John reveals what should have happened and what is actually happening. That's always so cool to me in the Saw films, and it's really cool in Saw 10 as well. But Saw 3 benefits from just having that really good connection between John and Amanda, and watching it develop throughout the film. Paired that with some really brutal traps and a really good twist at the end. But coming in first place is Saw. I really do prefer the simplicity to the first Saw film, and the extended trap of these 2 characters in this bathroom. They're chained up. How are they going to get out? When you look at all the other Saw films, they start to get really complicated. They start to have all these big traps, these big reveals. Saw just felt very simple. Yes, there are some twists and turns along the way, but the simplicity is there when you look at everything else. I like to just focus on these 2 characters in this bathroom, and how are they going to get out. They have their family, and there are some things that are happening outside of all of that. Not as gory as the other films, and I just really like how that approach was more simple and smaller, and you really get to feel like the anxiety of being there chained, and what are you going to do, and watching things play out, and how can they get out, and looking for clues and all of that. I like that approach to this movie, and James Wan, his direction is very distinct. It's slimy looking, and there are a lot of like quick edits that kind of make this film feel really frantic, and I love that approach to a lot of the Saw movies, honestly. But Saw, the original one, I still to this day think it's one of the best horror films I have seen. One of James Wan's better directed films. Just really kickstart this franchise in an exciting way with a really simple approach to this game that Jigsaw wants to play. And in the end, Tobin Bell getting up from the floor and then saying game over, that was like a big shock to me when I saw that in 7th grade, and still to this day kind of just really surprises me. That one of the best horror films and a great way to start this franchise. So there you guys have it, all 10 Saw films ranked worst to best. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Justin Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.